Welcome to Phil Swallow Podcast, episode 176, being broadcast live at around about 7:30 on the 28th of November 2024. And as I mentioned before, the bit that I'm going to cut off, for the audio listeners, there will be occasionally, possibly, a screen share which you won't see, but you will still get the whole experience regardless. So, yeah, I'm doing these once a month. I'm hoping to get another one of these in just before Christmas time, Christmas show, maybe a year-end kind of thing. Most people will probably be busy between Christmas and New Year itself. So look out for that one. Hi, Kate from On the Hill. Great. Good to see you. Welcome on board. So, and again, when I'm doing the agenda for this, it's kind of me just throwing things in for what I've done. And I will talk through where I've been, what I've done. Hopefully you may have seen some of the activities. So now the thing that I believe after the last show, I said something like, tomorrow I'm going to go out and film the Godstone W&T. And I didn't. It didn't happen. I think it was weather. We had that really gloomy period. It was horrible and grey. And to be honest, this time of year, or any time of the year when it's grey, very hard to make it look good. And I held on, I dug in. So I've still got my very rough timetable for when I want to do the videos, but I wanted it to look half decent. And we had one sort of break in the weather. I think it was a Monday. In the end, it was a good couple of weeks after I'd mentioned it. And whizzed down to Godstone and did my walk, and it was lovely day. I think it was worth it when you see the end result, and hopefully you've seen the video now. And it still amazes me, Godstone. There's probably only part of it that I saw in the walk that I did, but loads of footpaths there, loads of history, loads of beauty, loads of lovely houses. Well worth a trip to that place. So that was Godstone. We got there in the end, and I think, Graham, who you've seen in the videos now, he was in the Tatsfield one, and I occasionally pick him up on some of the others. Graham's a very good friend. He's been very supportive of what I do, and we tend to have a kind of coffee and chat and planning session, very rough. Just jot a few notes down, and we're going to have a kind of Christmas get together in a couple of weeks' time, 3 weeks' time, to do some planning for 2025. This isn't a business, so I don't have kind of, proper milestones, but there's a reason for trying to do certain things in a certain order. So that was Godstone, and I know that a number of you have seen the Croydon video. That was recorded last Wednesday. The tale behind that is that there was the Sussex Bell Christmas steam train that they run every year around about this time, going through East Croydon, and the aim was to try and capture that and do the video, because it wasn't a million miles away from where I did the kind of start and end point. I couldn't really find a way of keeping to my timetable and seeing the steam train, so I kind of cut the option for the steam train, which I did record last year. Graham went and saw it, and then we kind of met up a bit later. But so anyway, got to Croydon. That was last Wednesday. Done the planning. First prop of the evening. My official notes from the video. My script, if you like, which isn't really, it's just a load of maps with my writing all over it. But I enjoyed doing that. Croydon is, it's a very weird place nowadays. There's some really quite, how would you put it, hard-hitting videos. One saying Croydon is the knife capital of the country or something. That the guys who put those videos out get a lot of clicks, get a lot of views, and great, good on them, well done. But that's not what I want to kind of bring out. Mine's about the history, maybe the nostalgia, and I don't go too far back in the history. I tend to keep it to things where us or our next generation up will have memories, and certainly our younger days will remember some of it. So the aim is to bring that across and not go back over the centuries, not go to the state of the social side of things now. As I say, other people do that. That's their brand. And I just, I do what I do, what you guys tune in and see and support. So, and I kind of put a comment about that on there because I love the comments, but people sometimes, it goes the other way. So thank you for appreciating where I'm coming from on these videos. I was handed over some box files of documents about Sanderstead mainly, and I was looking through them this afternoon, and some of them go back centuries. I've never, hello, Merlin's cat. I've never, I say never say never. I've not at this point found a need to go back that far, or a desire. I know I've mentioned sometimes if there's like an enclosure, a Bronze Age enclosure or Roman references, I'll cover those, but I don't go deep into how Sanderstead was in 1452 or whatever. I don't mean in the afternoon, you know what I mean. So that may change in the future, but I prefer, if I've got a kind of niche that I'm moving into here, it's to try and have a link with things that people who watch modern videos on YouTube can remember. And I know I've got a reasonable mix of ages, but they tend to favour the slightly older groups, which I'm one of, really. So it's just so that people can say, I remember that, or picking up on one thing might trigger another memory. And you would be amazed at how many people come back to me either on comments or sometimes separately via Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, where they've made another connection with something that I picked up in their lives. Some of these people are thousands of miles away now and have been living there for decades, but they get some, I suppose I could call it value, from some of the things that I pick out in the videos, and that is absolutely a huge reason for wanting to do it and wanting to do more. So, right, so we have a question or a comment from Jeff. So, Phil, I've heard there's it's gone. Jeff, did you take it away? You've retracted it. Well, if you come back with it, I'll see it pop up. So we may have a question from Jeff, and as ever, please feel free to shove stuff into the chat as we go. So the next one I'm going to film, I think I did mention it in the last episode, because there's normally, I do these roughly once a month, and normally these things carry over a bit. So I've been researching a history of a house that used to be just as you enter Courtwood Lane on the corner, and the house was called Windy Ridge. And I'm going to be telling that story soon, and it's not just about that house. The house and the timeline of that house is a huge part of it. That's really the whole framework for the story. But it's very much about how this area has grown. So I'm going to kind of go back to Addington Lodge, which is where the Fisher's Farm refuge site is. That was the Addington Lodge location. That was a lodge building, been there for years. And obviously there is still a building there of sorts, but it's about how I tell the story from where it was just kind of open land to what we have now. And I don't know what you think of this as a working title, but I thought I'd call it From Fields to Forestdale. Perhaps? What do you think? Anyway, it's working title. Happy to take comments. So that's going to be the story. So it's literally going to be from where there was not even the pumping station. That was the first main construction there, opened in the 1880s. And then other things were built, houses were built. But actually that land where Forestdale is now, I know it was kind of small holdings and all that, but quite interesting when you sort of dig into it, what it was. And my job is to put it across in an interesting way for your consumption, entertainment, and bit of an education. So I'm looking forward to doing that one. So, Phil, I've heard there's someone buried in Sanderstead Church who was in charge of the Light Brigades. Do you know if that's true? Absolutely. And that was Benjamin Beeson. Jeff, I've done a video on Benjamin Beeson's life, called Sanderstead's Local Hero. And this week I've been doing some research over at the Metropolitan Police Museum at Sidcup, Marlow House, because I'm trying to develop that story. So I've given talks about Benjamin's life, and Sanderstead Police Station was there from about 1850 to about 1895, 1896, broadly. Trying to get confirmation of that through research right now. So yes, he took the Queen's Shilling. He joined the 11th Hussars. He fought and was a survivor with some scrapes and bruises and cuts from the charge of the Light Brigade at Crimea. And he did a couple of little jobs and then joined the police force, and he was based at Sanderstead Police Station and buried with his wife with full military honours. And the guards actually came from Caterham Barracks to represent, to provide that kind of part of the ceremony when he was buried in 1908. And I've done a lot of work. I went to Bethlehem Hospital and was able to see the records from when he had a stay at the hospital there. And what I think is absolutely incredible is that the family, descendants, ancestors of Benjamin got to see the video. So they've been in touch with me, 2 or 3 of them, over the last year or so since it's been live. And I'm in very good contact. We met up with his grandson. And you might be thinking, well, what about the age difference? But he was born when his dad was quite old, and his dad was born when Benjamin was quite old. So that's kind of how it was connected. But yes, it's perform with the Forestdale Players. Wow, nice one. Yes, Benjamin Beeson, fantastic story. And as I say, I'm linking that to the story of Sanderstead Police Station. It was a mounted patrol station. What I found out in the archives the other day was that there is very little reference. It didn't feature in the survey books where they surveyed every premises that they built. It really was a kind of 2 adjoining cottages and a stables, and that was the Horse Patrol Police Station for about 50 years, end of the 19th century. And I'm always on the lookout for more. I mean, I've contacted Croydon Archives today because apparently there was a drawing done of the police station cottages back in 1933. So I'm trying to find out more information about that. But yeah, in terms of the archive records, literally nothing. I looked in indices, I think is the right word, and I found references to when Kenley was open, and we did know that once Kenley was open, Sanderstead closed. Their kind of patrols or business, whatever you want to call it, service went to Kenley. Not far away, of course, certainly across country. So, Kenley opened in July 1896, and there's a reference in their order book saying that, which I took a little copy of. It would have been nice if it had said over the next year, 18 months, Sanderstead will be ceased to operate, blah, blah, blah. It didn't, nothing. They were very, very basic. Enjoy the Croydon video. Thank you very much. Good to hear. So, and that was actually my next point. So the Featherbed Lane Research, Met Police Museum and Sanderstead Police Station. It's funny because I think I've probably covered this before. Some of the map images are very detailed, and they do match up. The shape, the top-down shape that you have on a map, match the sketch that I saw. And it's now 196 Limpsfield Road is the exact location, but of course they would have flattened the old building, the old police station cottages, and rebuilt from scratch there. Do I have plans to do a walk along the River Wandle? D. Well, it's funny you should say that, because Graham, my partner in crime, partner in plans, keeps telling me I should do something on the River Wandle, and I don't know, I've kind of held back a bit on it. I know people have done it before. It's been done in blogs and that sort of thing. There's a few bloggers that do the various Croydon parks and things. So, I dare say that Wandle will feature again. I haven't quite worked out how we do it. It could be that it might be done as a series, walk stretches of it. I'm not going to walk all of it in one day, I'm sure. But yes, Steve, assume that is somewhere in the Phil Swallow historian planning system, and I can't forget it now because it's been made officially as a comment, so there you go. But yes, I touched on this earlier about the comments, and most, by a long way, most comments are brilliant. So you do get the odd one. I like it if people correct things, because I can't pretend that my research is correct. My delivery of information may sometimes miss a bit. So yes, I'm always happy to get that information coming over via the comments. I wish YouTube's comment system was a bit easier to interrogate sometimes. I think there is a search on there, but not always easy to actually pick it out. So I'm kind of, sometimes I pick up on the wrong thread, and it gets a bit of a mess. Maybe that's good, because it's success that people are using that as a method. And Tony got in touch with me for following the Croydon video, and he sent me in 3 images. He scanned them in from slides, and I haven't worked out how I'm going to use them yet. They were taken from the roof of the Wellesley Road multi-storey car park in, I believe, 1974. They are incredibly good quality pictures. Thank you, Tony, once again. I know I thanked you in emails, but thank you again. And I think really the best thing to do would be a then and now, which I've done before in other video series. The image going towards Spurgeon's Bridge, so it is the walk that I took the other day. You've got the Alhambra pub opposite what was Pembroke Hall. In the video it's Pembroke House, and there's kind of grass verges in the middle of the road, which would have gone probably before the tram system came in. And obviously it's all little old shops and buildings where Delta Point came. On some of I think he took 3 perspectives. There's one looking back down towards George Street, also from the roof, and there's one kind of looking behind where you see the Railway Bell pub and that kind of thing, and the power station and other big huge industrial buildings and factories over kind of Purley Way area. So that, from comments come emails and all that sort of stuff. And Jeff, I'm just going to remind you, you said you were going to send me lots of photos from your time working in various parts of Croydon, so I look forward to those. Maybe that's my Christmas present. I mean, I don't know. I'm happy to... Why is it asking me for a password on something else? Go away. Right. Not you. Stay here, please. No. I've got a very good scanner here, and I'm happy, if you're happy, to actually take photos on a handover so that I can do all the scanning stuff and any editing and cleaning up and that sort of thing, and then get them back to you. So if that's a way we can get together and do things, that's one of the benefits, I suppose, of having a local, a kind of locally focused channel, although you guys could be anywhere. Right, so looking at the pictures in the loft. The pictures, Jeff. Found a picture of Kirsty McCall pop singer on top of the East Croydon car park. We had to shut the top floor for a photo shoot. Wow, what a terrible loss of life that was. She was a real local star, but a really huge star as well. I worked in Bonaparte Records. Okay. Another big name from the past. Although they say vinyl is coming back. A resurgence. So yeah, photos sent in. Brilliant. Excuse me. Talks. I think in the last one, it was quite a tight schedule for a talk on January the first week. January the 5th, 8th or something. That's been postponed for us. There's another speaker. So, and that talk is at the Bournemouth Society. And if any of you guys ever can get along, first Wednesday in every month, Stafford School, and I'll always be there because I tend to do the technical stuff. It'd be brilliant to meet up. That my talk is with Carol Roberts from CNHSS, is now going to be April, I believe. But yes, Bournemouth Society, great, always good for an entertaining evening. But I'm kind of getting into this timelines thing a bit more, and that's that goes back to this brilliant show called A House Through Time with David Olashoga. Recommend it. They've got, I think, the last 2 series on iPlayer, and we still, Sue and I, often go back and just pick out an episode of Who Do You Think You Are, because some of the various places that I have to go to look up stuff are very often covered in those shows, and they're brilliant. Charles Dance one the other day was amazing. So, although it was about 10 years old. What else have we done in our life? Well, Sue had her birthday. That was at the end of October. We went up to town. We had a meal at Dishoom over at King's Cross. That was wonderful. And then we went to see Juno and the Paycock with Mark Rylance. And I should have written her name down, but the lady, she was the kind of legal expert person in Succession in States, Sky Atlantic, brilliant show. So anyway, they were in it. Mark Rylance I think he often steals the show. He was very good, but it's nice to see the guy on the stage in the West End, so that was good. How do I send these pictures to you again? Well, Jeff, it depends. I'm happy to meet up and borrow them from you. Bring them home here. Give me a few days to scan them in, and then I'll just hand them back to you. So we could meet up at any time. Just send me a message separately, mate. That'd be fine. Then I think, was it a week later, we saw Squeeze at the Albert Hall. Really good concert. So they were, who was it who, Badly Drawn Boy supported them. So that was good. Not seen Badly Drawn Boy before. But he was good. He had a very good rapport with the crowd. But the Squeeze show, amazing. I mean, it was literally no nonsense. It wasn't about the light show. It wasn't about this. It wasn't about that. They just did their set almost back to back without taking a breath. All the classic numbers, all the instrumentalists were really good. Just wonderful show. And the Albert Hall, my first visit to the inside of the Albert Hall. Amazing place. So that was really good. So, good, Jeff. Thank you for that. And then we went out again last week. Excuse me. And we went to the Southwark Playhouse. Now, the Southwark Playhouse have some very good quality shows. It's one of these off West End venues, so a smaller venue. You don't have a booked seat. You just kind of get there as soon as you can. There's got a bar there. Have a bite to eat. And then you just file in and grab your seat. And we saw a show called The Happiest Man on Earth. And it was about the story of Eddie Jacku. Now, the actor who played him, who again I didn't write down, but it'll be online if you look it up. The actor who played him has got just such a fantastic career. He was in Hill Street Blues, to give you an idea of his age. And Eddie Jacku was German Jew and has just got I won't spoil it because I honestly think if you can get to watch it, you will be moved by it. One of the greatest shows we've ever seen. And he's performed this for the last couple of years in both the States and in the UK. And yeah, it was just a jaw-dropping performance, just a one-man show, no break, like 90 minutes. And he's 82, the actor. Unbelievable performance. But to give you an idea of some of the shows that they have at the Soho Playhouse, they call it the Sound House, but that was a music shop. But it's Soho Playhouse. So they had originally Operation Mincemeat. Now, we saw that in the previews. It was one of the funniest shows we've ever seen. They are now going on to Broadway because they've had such a successful run in the West End. But it started there at the same Southwark, not Soho, Southwark Playhouse. Philip, get it right. It's not far from Borough, between sort of Borough and Elephant and Castle, that kind of area. So absolutely recommend that one. So I think I mentioned about one. I'm just going through my notes, my agenda. Yeah, one more podcast before Christmas. Probably do it the actual week before Christmas week, not the week of Christmas. That'd be too messy. And we've actually done a bit of Christmas shopping, just a bit, not a lot. We don't go mad, but you do with grandkids. So year-end review. We used to do these when I had a job. I never really got into them too much, but I think it's quite good to look back sometimes and just see what's been achieved. Each year I think I should be doing more videos, but I tend to do fewer, but they're a bit longer and maybe a bit deeper. Or if they're a walk, they have a bit more of a broad coverage. But almost every week I think I should do more 4-8 minute videos, but I don't know. If you can tell a story in that time, so be it. Maybe that's a New Year's resolution. But yeah, other plans for next year. Still looking to do things like the theatre history of Croydon. Possibly the water history might happen. I've probably done enough about the Gardner family to almost do a part 2, but I'll see. That's the Hamsey Green Aerodrome. And what was the other one that came up the other day? Right, okay, yeah. Mountwood House in Selsdon. That's got a very interesting story that connects to history. So that's something that I'll be looking to do some polish on and get out there. Bletchingley, Walk and Talk. And I don't think she's on here tonight, but Old Causden, definitely going to happen. And actually, Old Causden and just Causden. What do you call the other bit of Causden? Anyway, so both Causdens. I've only ever done Kenley from an aerodrome perspective, but if there's enough going on the lower part of Kenley, I might do something there. Again, maybe that's a short one. Manor Park I've got to do because I prepped it. Not looking to go too deep into the sort of southern part of the boundary yet. I mean, this is all generally the Bourne area, roughly. And I'm not looking at this stage to get too far north. I mean, I did the Croydon horse racing history. That actually featured in those police books I was looking at the other day. They were quite riotous, apparently. So there was a thing about the Met Police, how many officers they had to dispatch to the Croydon steeplechase in the 1860s. So Addiscombe itself, I've got 2 or 3 books on Addiscombe history. May do something there. And also Shirley, which is close by. And at the Sanderstead History Group, they did Chris Harman did a great talk the other week on the history of Shirley. And there's quite a bit there that I didn't realise was there. So that might be something to pick up. Lingfield and Edenbridge or too far out? Well, Lingfield has cropped up 2 or 3 times. And Sue's got family over there, so that could be a nice excuse to do Lingfield. And I guess if I've done Godstone, South Godstone, Lingfield, I won't rule that out. That's probably going to feature on the planning discussion. And Edenbridge as well. I feel I've got a kind of connection with Edenbridge. A walk from Kenley to Causden Common. Yeah, that's a shout as well. Sue and I did Kenley Rangers team. I don't know what they call it, not as in a football team. The Rangers that patrol the city parks. What's it called? City. Anyway, it'll come to me. They do occasional walks. Often they might be kind of springtime, almost like the time spring watches on TV. And we did a wild flower walk, which was great, going over Kenley Aerodrome and some of the land around that. And we also did the nighttime bat walk, which was brilliant, where you get these little listening devices and they all kind of whiz past as if they're going past your nose. So that was good. And that's a point, a walk from Kenley to Causden Common. And also those areas are very well footpathed and mapped out and the like. So interesting one. That'll also feature on the planning. So thank you for that. Again, always up for ideas. I feel that with many of them, I've done them a number of different ways now. It's funny, I mean, even things like Wallingham. So I did the walk, trying to remember myself. I think it might have been the Jacob's Ladder walk or another one. But I did one where I went down Shelton Avenue, where there used to be a windmill, and along where there was a sports club that closed down and it was barricaded off, and then you could do a walk along the footpath alongside what was a brick field. And then I think I took a left to come out of the top of Tythe-Pitshaw Lane. I should know, shouldn't I? I'm saying I think, but I mean, I did the walk. It's on video. But it was just kind of fields. You connect up with Wallingham Rugby Football Club field. But now there's a huge housing development on there. And those houses have shot up in no time at all. I don't know what that's going to do to the land and the drainage and all that. I'm sure it was all surveyed, but I've probably said before, and it's almost stating the obvious, but I know we have to progress. I know there is demand for housing across the country, but I also understand that the very things that we might refer to as important buildings now, or buildings that have been there for a number of years, certainly in the whole growth of Hamsey Green, outskirts of Wallingham, Sanderstead, Selsdon, Purley, you don't have to go too many map iterations back, and they were all fields and farms. So they were all built on. So that's, I think as long as it's controlled, as long as it's contained, and as long as it's done with a bit of style, then that would be all very good to me. So, yeah. Right, so I like that. Kenley to Caulston Common. Great idea. A sort of commons walk. Lingfield and Edenbridge. I mean, Edenbridge, yeah, because you've got the history, you've got the railway, you've got the River Eden, which is very nice. So I think what you've got there is, because they did a bypass, didn't they, some years ago? But the town road is probably quite quiet now. But yeah, plenty of history to pick up there, I think. So that will go onto the map. So thank you for that. Right, Phil, when you walk down Westall Road, then right into Hilby Road, there's a cottage on your right. Thatched cottage was built for the kids of the owner of the estate. Did you know that? Yeah, now, funny enough, Jeff, a lot of that is well documented, but I've not actually done that walk. I've been meaning to do something, possibly literally going down Hilby Road, formerly known as Workhouse Lane, and the workhouse was there some considerable time ago. But yeah, I think there's quite a bit of history. There was the Bayards estate up there and all that kind of thing. So, Devon, there's a lot of housing development going on. Yeah. And obviously, I guess one of the things that will happen in Croydon is conversion of commercial to residential. One of the comments I got from an old buddy on my Croydon video was about Impact House, because he worked there for BT back in the day. And I did a little Google, and I think it just had approval for that to be converted, as has I called it the Thrupney Bit building. That's going to be converted into flats. No changes to the outside of it, but flats inside. I'd rather they do that, I must admit. I would rather a building stayed as it is, even if it was brutalist kind of classic Croydon architecture design from the 1960s. After a while, you kind of get used to them being on the landscape. So if there's a way you can avoid flattening them and just build something habitable there instead, then good. Is Miller's Pond still in Shirley? Used to fish for tiddlers and newts there when a kid, many, many years ago. After the school, Shirley Secondary School, opposite Shirley. I think it is, Peter. Now, let me get this right. So if you're going along from, what's the name of the road? But there's a kind of cut through if you're going along to the Shrublands Road, the road that takes you up to Shrublands, and it's got one of those official council signs on the left with a little walkway to Miller's Pond, and I'm planning to do that one. And because I saw it on the map the other day, and there's a little blurb about it, so that might be a very quick walk, unless I can incorporate Miller's Pond in a walk and talk for Shirley High Street. So maybe. I'm planning as I go, you see. It's an ongoing process. Oh, the 50p bit building. I think, yeah, I don't know. Dad always called it the Thrupney bit building, and I suppose it stuck. But there's probably more sides to a Thrupney bit. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to count the sides and see if it matches up. But yeah, Miller's Pond is still there. Also, I think Shirley's almost two. You could probably do one for Shirley Road, the Coloma, and there were huge buildings on where the windmill is all around it. There were some huge, great, big, stately homes there, and there's some old architecture now. So Westway, I think it is. Westway. Does the 194 bus go along there? Maybe. But I've definitely seen the sign only in the last 2 or 3 weeks for Miller's Pond in Shirley. So that's going to happen, which will be cool. So, okay. How are we doing? How are we doing for time? We're doing okay. Wow. Marco from Los Angeles. I think that's a winner. And I thank you for your comments yesterday. So it's great. Thank you for dialing in all the way. So I know you got a connection with the area from back in the day. brilliant that there is the reach to this channel. I remember one of the very early comments was someone who'd moved to either Manhattan or perhaps on the outskirts on Connecticut, something like that. And they were saying, reeling off where they used to get, which bus they would get from which stop and outside which newsagents and all that. And it was fantastic. So those sort of things really resonate for me. If there's a way that just doing this stuff that I do when I go out with a little microphone and camera. And happy Thanksgiving. Yes, indeed, Marco. Hope you're having a good time. And I'm honoured that you're giving up a bit of Thanksgiving time to join the video. Brilliant. 15 people watching. Grew up on Shrublands, moved to Sanderstead 1968. Okay. So Shrublands must have been quite new at that point, I guess. And then Sanderstead is, well, one of the many things that I read in this big file of papers today was a play that was put on by Sanderstead Drama Group in 1980 to celebrate 750-year anniversary of the kind of birth of Sanderstead. And I also realised that our scanner's got some nice fancy options that it can just reel these things in and come up with a PDF. And paper's quite difficult to look after, so I'm going to be doing some serious scanning. It's always in use, Jeff. I've always got the kit, so yeah, if we can arrange to get your photos, I'd be delighted to bring them in. So the second flat I had in 1965 was brand new. Cool. Yeah, the thing that I'm after really, and there's no harm in asking this, because either you guys may know, or you may know someone who knows, or someone may look at it on the replay, is just to find some other photos that people may have of the land in Forestdale, pre-Forestdale. And that may be that if you perhaps came into one of the houses when not all of Forestdale had been built, that might be useful. I've got some techniques that I'm going to use to represent that, but if I can use some photos as well, that would be so good when I tell that story. And I think one of the things that I think people may not appreciate is just how hilly the whole Forestdale estate is. And you can imagine how different it would have looked when it hadn't got 15 to 1,700 houses all over it. Or properties, dwellings, I think we call them, don't we? But yeah, so this particular house, Windy Ridge, just to go back to what I was saying earlier, it was literally, as you go into Courtwood Lane, so just past the big Forestdale sign, you take an immediate left and there's like an L-shaped terrace of houses, probably about a dozen houses there. And my target house, my subject house, was right in the middle of that kind of angle, the right angle that those houses make. So I've got a few blurry aerial photos, no actual photos. House was there from the 1920s till it was pulled down for the Courtwood Lane development in 1960s. So found some photographs of us on the highways digging up New Addington Parade. I mean, my nan and granddad, a very, very Croydon family. Nan was an usherette at the Hippodrome Cinema. Granddad was a doorman, and they met that way. And then they had a place in New Addington for quite a few years. So I remember going to the carnival and all that sort of stuff. And then they moved over to Orchard Road. They managed to get a flat there for their final years on the planet. So, and I tell you what, it's, maybe because I was just doing other things at the time, but I so wish I could dial back time and have a proper conversation with some of the older folk in the family that have left us. It's you can't do anything about it, but it is a source of regret. I mean, this sort of whole kit to do all this stuff didn't exist then, so probably me and others wouldn't have even thought about getting into it. But yeah, to have that conversation. And also my great uncle. I keep seeing things in the last couple of weeks where they've been referring to things like the Monte Cassino campaign in the Italian campaign in World War II. And my great uncle was in that. He fought in the Royal Artillery. He did talk a bit when I was in my teenage years about some of his war stories. Not a lot. I'm sure I've mentioned it before, where even after surrender had been signed and they were relatively free people, there was a kind of booby-trap bomb exploded on a bridge that he was driving over, and he got badly injured, but he recovered. But I've got I'm the only kind of remaining sort of connection relative or whatever, and one of the youngest. I've got a file of stuff relating to his career in the army, which I am going to tell a story, but I can't get access to certain records at the National Archives until 2027 through the rules that they have, because he was injured in service, and there's lots of medical stuff on there, which I knew, but their rules are that they can't just release it without waiting a certain period. And that made me think, actually, if ever you guys have some specific bits of research that you need a bit of help on, I'm not saying I can do all of it, but if there's just some little pointers, please get in touch. Just ping me a message. And I only say that because I've got access to all the various online sources. A lot of them can be quite expensive to pay for. I've got them. I'm paying for them because I'm using them literally every day for various types of research, whether it's people or places, combination. Just, if I can help you get on that way, then on that path. Often they have deals towards the end of the year because people have a New Year's resolution after meeting with the family at Christmas to say we must do a family tree. I would say, 1, get your DNA sorted out, which you can do as part of Ancestry, and then 2, look for a deal, get on board, and it's a great fun journey, I have to say. Your dad's 97. Wow, took him back to Canary Wharf. There's a crane he used to drive, and the Dockers Museum. Brilliant. I mean, some of those old... now, so this is another thing to look up. The BBC archive on YouTube have some absolutely wonderful videos. They actually have a series more recently about the technology that we thought, wow, that's amazing, from like 1975 or whatever. Things that they may have, like kids competitions to imagine how life might be in 1998 or something. But yeah, so it's quite incredible that what's been retained there. So BBC, it's just literally called BBC Archive on YouTube. And also, from the way YouTube works, once you start looking at some of those, it will suggest others. So there's a Thames TV. They've got archive films on there, so they've been suggesting things. And there's various other ones where people have just got hold of old, like the Motor Show from 1976 or whatever. I watched the whole edition of the 1980 Motor Show where they were celebrating the Mini Metro and other types of things. You'll probably notice in some of those videos that people who fell foul of the law and had some dodgy backgrounds are still on them, but they haven't been cancelled out of the old videos, but they're very good. Work being done on the parade a while ago, 1971 to 2007, out of Fisher's Depot. I assume that's Fisher's Farm. So so I these nostalgia trips, I mean, that's what, as I say, I suppose I'd like to think I play my part in those to a degree, but watching some of those on the BBC, they do seem dated, but you also reminds you that we were there to a degree as well. So great, good. Well, I've been going for a little while, and this is about the sort of average time that I natter away for. If there's anything else that you wanted to ask or raise or suggest, then I will keep it ticking over for that. Failing that, if we don't get anything in, then I'll hang on for a bit, obviously. Then we'll say goodbye, and I'll see you again in about 3 weeks' time. But I will hold it open for a bit longer. And Jeff, send me a message about the photos. Because once I've got those, I mean, I think the other thing is people, quite rightly, take photos of people. I did like the fact that the one I put on the video of Croydon, of my mum wearing a tinfoil dress, doing the salvage drive, and, give your tinfoil over and we'll build a Spitfire kind of thing. That was, for me, quite important because it was on the Fairfield and it had the church in the background. So that was a big, hey. Thank you, Peter. Uncle's been researching different branches of the family tree since the 70s. He's still doing it now, he's nearly 80. Trace from mother's side back to the 1500s. Wow. Nice one. Yeah, I mean, I think huge respect for people who have done that kind of work for that period of time, where you would literally have had to go to archives, to parish records, request copies of this, that and the other from registry offices. It's quite a task. In fact, I had one when I was looking to tell the story of all the people that lived at Windy Ridge. Stay tuned for when the video's done. They do this thing now, which is quite good, where if you want a copy of the birth entry, they take a picture of the register, and it's only £3, which is pretty good actually. So I did that. I said, right, I'll have a copy of it, and it's immediately available. £3, sent a copy over, and they basically done a copy of half of the entry above and half of the entry below the person I wanted. But the information that I could read from what they'd copied meant that it wasn't that person anyway. So I went back and I had to pay the £8 for a PDF version, but actually they gave me what was the actual certificate. I'd read that if you asked for a PDF, it would just be a kind of scraping of information on a kind of, form. But they actually gave me a PDF for £8 of the birth certificate, and that helped me to be able to tell the story that I'll be telling fairly soon. So that was brilliant. Oh, it was you. Far back as possible to go due to changes in language, the Latin as well. But 1500s is very impressive. I mean, actually, this is the thing. So Ancestry, very often I might be looking up a certain name. Obviously, you put in as much as you can with the search, and it will sometimes throw up results from 1523 and things like that, which is brilliant. Right, I will. You're asking for. Oh, you're asking for. Right, okay. I'll let you two work out how you're going to communicate with each other if you need to exchange email addresses. So anything else? Ask me anything. I'll be happy to help. Give you an idea of some of the things I have on my desk. Look, this is a printout. I'm not expecting you to read it. Printout of the 1851 census from Sanderstead, showing that Edward Stepney, Metropolitan Police Constable, was living in, and all it says is cottage 39 is the name of the entry, a cottage in Sanderstead. The streets were so sparsely populated then that you literally, cottage 1, cottage 2, cottage 3, didn't even have a road on there. So there we go. So right, Marco, sorry to come into this so late today. Don't worry, you. Love what you're doing with your videos, Phil. They bring back so many memories. Thank you. That's brilliant to hear, Marco. I really do appreciate your comments there. Yeah, I mean, as I say, I've got a passion for doing this. Hopefully that comes across. And I think you kind of don't know when you start off on this journey how any of it will land, really. I just put it out there, and I think hopefully there's a bit of refinement and whatever as I go along, make more and enjoy it more. You get more confident about what you do and all that sort of stuff. It's for me, the whole engagement thing that goes along with it is really very powerful. So great to hear. So evening, Carol. And before you say it, I have already mentioned Old Coulsdon. It's on the list. This is where I may have got it wrong, but I'm sure you mentioned it last time. You did mention that you shouldn't take all the online results as facts. You need to validate them. I completely agree, Stuart. This is the thing where you can lose a lot of time. I mean, you spend a lot of time doing it, but even if you might think you've got the right combination of first name, middle name, last name, and date of birth, you still need to look at it all ends up to make sure it's the right person. And also the classic, which went on for centuries, firstborn son having the same name as the father and all that sort of stuff. very, very easy. So I tend to find that I'm using a lot of pen and paper when I'm doing these things initially. Only when I've got a degree of certainty will I start to plug it in. I've also spotted and sometimes pointed out to other people where they've gone down that route and they put it into their family tree and made it public on Ancestry. And I've actually gone back saying, actually, that's not right. You've got completely the wrong guy in there. And by doing that, it just skews it all completely, because Ancestry often suggests someone else's tree for the same person to then build out your tree. So all it does is spread that error further and wider. The good thing is with stuff like the DNA, so my DNA is plugged into our family tree, and that gives you a degree of confidence that you're on the right line. And in my case found out something quite unusual in the family. So yeah, the DNA bit is good. No problem, Carol. It's on the list. It was discussed recently. It's going to be discussed again, and it will be done at some point soon. In fact, whether I do it as part of a walk across country, I may do that a different way. So the other bit of news. So I did an article last year. Actually, it was earlier this year, for the CR2 magazine, which is Sanderstead Residents Association. I'm pretty certain they only publish 2 a year. Someone may be able to tell me. Anyway, I did it on Hamsey Green Airfield and the Gardner family, and it went down pretty well. I think I got some good feedback. So they've asked me to do another article, and in fact to be a kind of regular contributor. So I'm pleased about that. That's nice to be asked, and I've got a submission deadline of, I think, the 3rd week in Jan. But I'm meeting one of the committee members for lunch in a week or two, so we'll discuss it then. But I'm probably going to do the story of Benjamin Beeson and Sanderstead Police Station. What I don't know actually is whether the magazine is available online. If it is, it might be something I can kind of share that way. And the other thing I thought of doing is doing a bit more blogging. So I've got a website, philswallow.com, nice and easy to remember. I put things like my speaking engagements on there. Sounds very grand. I don't put too much on there relating to video. There's some stuff on there, but I was thinking about doing a proper blog series about some of the Croydon stuff. And the reason for that is the aerial photographs are really good, and they are very well detailed in many cases, but you can't just kind of lift them and use them. So, but you can embed them into a website, and then when you click on it, you can see the main quality image. So what I'm going to do is kind of do a bit of typing, do a bit of story writing based on some of the picking up almost on the video that I did last week, and just sort of taking the story a bit further. So I just thought that's just another way of sharing some of the stuff that's kind of up here at the moment, or on my expanding folder structure on my computer. And just get it out there as another way of consuming information. I use Squarespace from a website, and the way they format it, it's normally easy to read on a phone or an iPad or a computer or whatever you choose. So that's something else to consider. Good. Phew, come up for breath. So well, I think that's probably us done now, and thank you once again for coming online and having a chat. It's been absolutely wonderful. Jeff, once again, get in touch. I see you've been getting in touch with Peter, which is brilliant. And anyone, any suggestions, anytime. I never know which way is the best to contact me. If you go to my website, that's a way of contacting me. Most people tend to find it through there. Email is phil@philswallow.com. I'm on WhatsApp, Facebook, all those usual things. Blue Sky Social, I don't know, all these various things. So, but yeah, there's normally a way of getting in touch with me. YouTube's a bit weird like that. There's not like an ongoing site where you can just not like a group or things. But anyway, yes, thank you all. I really do appreciate it. I will formally say thank you. Typing around a microphone here. once again. No, I can't type. This makes good TV, doesn't it? There we go. And a laughter emoji. Yeah, brilliant. So I'm going to say thank you very much and look after yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll get back on here for a Christmas special. I don't know what form that'll take, but we'll have some fun. So brilliant. And enjoy the rest of your Thanksgiving, Marco. Thanks for coming aboard.